Earlier this month I had an interesting little project to do. When I put the boat back in the water at the beginning of the season, I noticed that the inlet for the head wasn't working. I kind of assumed that it was because when I serviced the Seacock during the winter, I put the tapered plug back in the wrong way, so that the hole in the plug wasn't marrying up to the pipe. Anyway, I wasn't very confident about trying to sort that out while the boat was in the water, for fear of sinking the blooming thing. So I decided I would have a go at beaching the boat, drying out, and using that opportunity to see if I could fix the Seacock. It's a beautiful day down here in Saltash. I'm just doing a recce because in about a month's time I want to bring the boat down here to dry out. There's some repairs I need to do on one of the Seacocks. The plan is to bring the boat down at about 2 hours after high tide, bring her up onto the beach here and do the work that we need to do, and then depart in the evening just about slack water and head back up to the mooring. Let's just have a quick examination of the foreshore here. Nice bit of fine grit, shingle, whatever you call it, beside the wall here. It's a little bit stony right at the end. I reckon if the keel is, if the stern is right just forward of that second posting, then we will be okay. Let's just, if we do that, let's just see where the bow would be. Okay, pace it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so the bow's going to be about there, and the stern will be at the second posting. Hopefully that's going to work all right. Need to do some careful tide calculations. Okay, so with this state of the tide, low today is supposed to be 1.3, although it's we've got a really very high pressure over England at the moment. I think 1030, so that might depress the height of both the low and the high tide a little. Oh well, that's the plan. Plan B would be to abandon the idea and try another time or somewhere else. And I think at high tide we should have plenty of manoeuvring space here. The only tricky thing might be if the wind is coming straight up the river here, we might get pinned onto the wall. Well, the next part of the plan was to find a day suitable for actually doing the drying out. So here down in Plymouth we have at Springs high tide in the morning and the evening and low tide at midday. So that's what really we want for drying out. So the task was to find a weekend when we're free and we're on spring tide. So the one I hit upon was July the 10th. So after I'd done my depth measurements with my measuring stick, I transferred the numbers onto my little bit of graph paper here. So the vertical lines represent the wooden pilings beside the pier. They are approximately 3 meters apart, I estimated. So here I put the depth of water that I measured at each, so 0.1 meters at the first, 0.5 at the second, 0.8 at the third, and 1.2 meters at the outside most piling. So then this was June the 19th, so looked at my tide tables. High at 1314 BST, low at 1931. So then look at the tidal curve for Plymouth, and from that come up with a list of the tidal heights at different times during the afternoon. So the time at which I took the depth measurements was 14:30, and I reckon from the tidal curve the height of tide there was 3.1 meters. So I've drawn that line on here, and then I've gone from my measured depths down, so I get a profile of the slope of the beach. Okay, so coming back to my beach profile here, the boat draws 1.5 meters. So what I'm thinking is, if we make sure that we go in when the tide is at least, the height of tide is at least 4.1 meters, then we'll have 1.5 right up to the second pier. The bow of the boat sort of curves up a bit at the front, so the idea is to motor in as far as we can. You know, if the front touches on the beach, well, it's fairly soft, it's a fairly soft gravel, so no big deal. And then that means that what's the high on? Okay, so the evening high on July the 10th is 5.2 meters, which means, you know, if we arrive when the tide is no lower than 4.1, it means that we will have another rise of tide of at least a meter in order to float off again in the evening. So that's the plan. So let's go to our tidal curve, and what we're going to do is mark off 4.1 meters, bring that down, and we can see that, okay, so roughly 2 hours after high tide is the latest that we should arrive. The morning high tide at Plymouth is 05:52 UTC, 06:52 BST. So I reckon if we arrive 8:30, something like that, we'll be good. Well, we're here on a very well, we're still afloat at the moment. The Royal Albert Bridge is one of Isambard Kingdom Brunel's most iconic structures. It links Devon and Cornwall by rail, crossing the River Tamar with a total length of more than 600 metres. Construction started in 1854 and the bridge was opened in 1859. Brunel was very ill by that time, but he did manage a ride across the bridge by train before he died later that year. So I've taken the Seacock out. This is the inlet for the head. I've taken the Seacock out, and as you can see, there's a hollow barrel, a tapered barrel with a hole. So that hole has got to, when the Seacock's open, it's got to line up with the pipe. So the flat edge faces away from the hole. So that's how we know which way to put it in. But what I've found
I thought I would just double check. I filled that Seacock up with a lower bit of water, and it wasn't draining out, which kind of tells me that it was blocked. So let's go and have a look underneath now the tide's going out and see why it's blocked. High tide was at 6:52, so there's a little while to go before low water. So I've got a little while to do some stuff yet. Now, so yeah, here's the inlet for the water, fresh water into the head. And I think we can probably see what I've done stupid there, which is fill all the holes up with anti-fouling. And I do want to make sure they weren't in those holes. Right, so we're done drilling. Let's do another test. Okay, so that's all draining out, so hopefully yes, I can actually see some daylight down there now, which I couldn't before. Let's see if that does the trick.